I'm going to be a little unconventional. I'm going to do a little something that's not real commercial or even really liked. But, that's kind of my thing. I want to speak to you sincerely, and I ask that you just listen to me before you roll your eyes or reject or anything. I just need you to listen to me for a second. Our children are killing themselves. Suicide rates for kids going through the roof. Some of the best, most valiant kids I've ever met are having suicidal thoughts. People that you were like, what? How is that even possible? I've had 2 suicides in my family. I have contemplated suicide myself when I was younger. So I understand it, and I understand how unreasonable it is, and I understand the difference between regular depression and clinical depression. I know what the mind can do, but there is something happening. Now I'm going to frame this in a story. I'm going to frame this in a story that we've all heard if we grew up in a religious family at all. That there was a great war in heaven, and 1/3 of the angels were lost. And the reason why 1/3 of the angels lost is because this great war was about freedom of choice, free will. And Satan, who was an angel up with God, said, I can fix this. I can fix this. All the bodies that you send down, all the souls that you send down, they're not going to be able to have any kind of redemption because they're going to be so dirty. They're going to fail. There's going to be so much suffering. And they're going to fail, and they won't be able to come back to heaven. And so, God, just give me all the credit. I'll bring every single one of them back. They're going to have to do exactly what I say. And they won't have free will, but I'll bring them all back. And that's when Jesus comes in and says, no, they have to have free will. They have to make their own decisions. They have to chart their own course. I'll go down and I'll pay the price so they can come back. And this great war in heaven happens. And I've always been puzzled. 1/3 of the angels, you're standing there singing praises, and somehow or another, this one guy convinces you that the guy you've been in the heavenly host singing praises for, you turn on? How is that possible? There's only one way it's possible. For someone to stand up and say, this God that you worship has no compassion. Has he no empathy? Is this just a game to him? He's going to send people into a war, and they're going to be battered and bruised, and some of them will lose. They're going to have massive pain and suffering, and all he has to do is take away their free will, and he won't do it. What kind of God are we worshiping? That argument is being had again, and it's happening here, right now. And it's being wrapped in the same lie: compassion, love, empathy, ending suffering. All you have to do is do what the leader tells you to do. And he'll make sure everyone comes home. Now, know that you're not going to have the bright days and the wild swings up, but you're also not going to have the wild swings down as a collective. How can you possibly, if you are a thinking, feeling human being, not see that? Because I am a thinking, feeling, individual human being. God created all men with certain inalienable rights. Among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the pursuit of happiness means that we have a right to fail. Nothing in my life has ever come good, really worthy without a struggle. My marriage, my children. Do I pray, God, please just make those teenagers shut up for half a second? Yes, I do. But because of my teenagers' struggles, I'm a better dad. I'm a more empathetic man. What is happening to us right now is evil. There is no two ways about it. Socialism is evil. It takes away man's right to free will. It is a bloodlust. It ends the same way every time. It ends the way it does in Venezuela. And how can I possibly say that? Well, let me give you 3 authoritarian regimes. 1, China. Do you remember the man that stood in front of the tank? 2, ISIS. Do you remember what happened in Nice where they took a truck and just drove it into people because people don't matter? And yesterday in Venezuela, the military just took a military truck and drove it into a crowd of people. It's a bloodlust. Is it a coincidence that an ancient evil that is against your free will, that all of our legends and stories, all of our religions revolve around this one story of freedom of choice? And it's an ancient battle that is the first battle that we ever know about? And that now people are trying to take away your freedom of choice? And it's wrapped in goodness? Satan doesn't come with horns and a red suit. He comes dressed in a Hugo Boss SS uniform. It looks sexy and seductive. It looks great. It's surrounded with propaganda and love and compassion. How can we let these poor people live? They have no quality of life. Is it a coincidence that socialism, the ancient battle of choice, also every single time comes with the ancient battle against the Jew? No time in history are we looking at socialists that don't turn anti-Semitic. Why? Why? Coincidence? Or ancient evil? There's one more thing. In my faith, and I want you to hear this clearly, I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, meaning what I believe is that we are living in the latter days. We're living in the last dispensation before the great change of love and Christ comes to earth. But in our theology, in our doctrine, we believe that everyone here on earth is here for a reason. Everyone. You. Your children. The children yet to be born. They're all coming for a reason. And you were born at this time for a reason, and you have a job to do. And our children are coming out either extraordinarily good, with the biggest hearts you've ever seen. Good, decent, caring, loving children that are beyond anything I've ever seen. Or they're coming out ornery as hell. Why? Our doctrine teaches us because these are the most righteous in the war in heaven. These are the ones who are on the front lines. They've already fought this battle before. And in the latter days, they have been saved for these days, because we need those valiant ones to lead us crumb bums that just kind of stood in the back, or we're kind of there, but we weren't the leaders. Our children are. And they're coming out with everything that they need. And now that the world is being swept in darkness, being swept by this ancient evil, being swept by ideology that is dressed up to be so beautiful and caring and loving, and it is about authoritarianism. You will do it our way or you will die. And it's telling our children now. And it's using every tool that is meant for good to teach them that there's nothing to live for, that they're meaningless, that there is no right and wrong, that they have no purpose. They do. They do. There is no ballot measure that is going to change this. There is no party, no candidate that will change this until we recognize what we're dealing with and we call it out by name. Authoritarianism, be that fascism, communism, yes, socialism, not a giant welfare state. That is compassion. In my opinion, it is misplaced, but it is compassion nonetheless. Authoritarianism in any form is evil. And we have to stop arguing about things that are second principles. We have to humble ourselves, turn around, face God, and say, I'm sorry. Somehow or another, I got lost. I'm sorry. Somehow or another, we all got lost. I see what's happening. Don't talk to me about climate change. Don't talk to me about climate change unless you're a vegan, unless you don't fly, unless you don't have a car. Don't tell me something that you are passionate about that you say is going to destroy all of us unless you're living it. Don't talk to me about religious persecution unless you are working to free the slaves, the Christian slaves, the Jewish people that are being slaughtered, and yes, the Muslims in China that are being put into concentration camps. Don't talk to me about religious freedom. I'm tired of tweets. I'm tired of social media. I want to be surrounded by people who will put their faith in God, who will put their faith into practice, and will be who they were born to be.